There's a version of your life, running in your head right now. The one where you finally launch the business, write the book, get the body, make the money. It feels so real, you can almost touch it. And here's the part that should scare you. You've been picturing that exact same future for years. Not because you're lazy, not because you don't want it badly enough. Something stranger is happening, a glitch. Built directly into how your brain processes the future, and once you see it, you'll start noticing it in almost everyone you know, including, probably, yourself. So here's the real question. If the dream feels this certain, why does the work never start? Picture Sarah, 31 years old, works in marketing, and for the last 3 years, she's been about to start her own agency. She's got the domain name saved, a folder of logo ideas, a note on her phone titled Business Plan that hasn't been opened since March. Ask her if it's happening, and she lights up. Not maybe, definitely. She can describe the office she'll rent in detail. She's never applied to an actual client. That certainty isn't delusion. It's a documented feature of the human mind called optimism bias, and neuroscientist Tali Sharot spent years studying it. At University College London, her research found something remarkable. Even when people are shown hard evidence that things could go wrong, their brains routinely fail to update the odds. We don't just hope the future goes well. Some part of us genuinely expects it to, regardless of the evidence sitting right in front of us. That's strange enough on its own. It gets stranger. Ask Sarah how long the launch will take, and she says, 2 months. It's been 3 years. This is what psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky named the planning fallacy, back in the 1970s, our almost universal tendency to underestimate how long anything will take, even when we've watched the exact same task run late every single time before. Here's the detail that makes it unsettling. Kahneman found that people don't just get it wrong once. They make the identical error on their 10th project as they did on their first, even after being shown their own track record. Experience doesn't fix it. Your brain isn't learning from the past. It's rewriting the future from scratch every time, as if this attempt is somehow exempt from the pattern. So if experience doesn't teach us what's actually driving the 2-month guess, it's something your brain is doing without asking permission, mental simulation. When Sarah imagines her agency, she's not being lazy or unrealistic on purpose. Her brain is running an actual simulation, activating many of the same neural regions that fire when she's genuinely doing the work. Neuroscience has a name for this overlap. To your brain, vividly imagining an action and performing it share real neurological territory, which raises an uncomfortable possibility. What if picturing success gives your brain something dangerously close to the feeling of achieving it? Think about how that plays out in an ordinary week. Sarah spends 45 minutes on a Sunday night rearranging her business plan template, moving boxes around, color-coding a timeline nobody else will ever see. She closes the laptop, feeling productive, accomplished, almost. But nothing in the real world changed. No client was contacted. No product exists. The simulation ran perfectly. The business didn't move an inch. Here's where it gets personal. Remember the last time you watched a motivational video and felt unstoppable, pumped, focused, ready to change everything? What did you do in the hour after it ended? If you're being honest, probably nothing. That rush wasn't imagined. Dopamine, the brain's chemical of pursuit, spikes, not at the moment of achievement, but during the anticipation of reward. Researcher Wolfram Schultz demonstrated this decades ago in landmark studies. The biggest dopamine hit lands when a reward feels possible, not when it actually arrives. Which means, picturing the future the fame, the money, the freedom, can trigger nearly the same chemical payoff as actually earning it. Your brain gets paid in advance. And once it's already been paid, some deep, ancient part of it sees far less urgency to do the exhausting, uncertain work required to collect, for real. That's not a character flaw. It's your brain quietly taking a shortcut it was never designed to notice. It's the same reason a course sits unfinished after payment. The purchase itself delivers a real, measurable hit of relief, a sense of, I'm handling this. And that feeling arrives instantly, while the actual skill it promises is weeks of uncomfortable practice away. Given a choice between a reward now and a reward later, the brain has a clear preference. Psychologists call it instant gratification, and it's not weakness. It's the oldest rule in the reward system. Closer always wins, even when later is worth more. There's a reason this feels so personal to so many people, and it goes back to how we see ourselves. Psychologists call it self-enhancement bias, our built-in tendency to rate ourselves as more capable, more disciplined, and more likely to succeed than the average person. Ask a room full of people if they're above-average drivers, and the vast majority will say yes. Statistically impossible. Psychologically, completely normal. Now apply that same bias to your future. Of course, the business will work. Of course, this time is different. Not because the evidence says so, because your own mind is built to assume you're the exception to patterns that apply to everyone else. So Sarah isn't failing to notice the gap between her dream and her progress. Her brain is actively working to keep her from seeing it. Which brings us to what's actually happening underneath all of it. Something researcher Gabrielle Eddingen spent years studying at NYU. She found that people who spend more time positively fantasizing about a future goal without pairing it with a real plan for the obstacles ahead often end up less likely to achieve it. Not slightly less, measurably less. The fantasy isn't fuel for the work. In many cases, it quietly replaces it. Think about how that reframes everything. The business book, bought and never opened. The course, purchased in a moment of motivation, never finished. Next month, said so many times, it stopped meaning anything. These weren't failures of willpower. They were a mind that had already collected its reward, with no reason left to chase the harder version. So where does that leave Sarah, or anyone standing in that exact same gap between the dream and the doing? Not in a place to feel ashamed. In a place to notice something most people never do. Sarah isn't actually waiting for the business to start. Somewhere underneath the folder of logos and the untouched plan, her brain has already run the launch, felt the relief, collected the reward, quietly closed the file. The dream never stalled. It already happened. Just nowhere anyone could see it, and nowhere that counted. That's the part almost no one says out loud. The danger was never failing to chase the future. It's that some part of the mind stopped needing to, the moment it got paid, to imagine it instead. Somewhere tonight, someone is picturing their future so clearly they can feel it arriving. And that feeling, the one that seems like proof it's close, might be the very reason it never comes.